Flu.
Here.
Okay. We also have looks like the fire chief online, PFC chair, and then our airport commission, airport, manager Jeremy Sickler here as well. So we will stand for a pledge of allegiance with a moment of silence afterwards. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, to number 4, motion to approve the consent agenda for the meeting minutes of February 12th, 2025, board meeting and monthly bills and previous month's journal entry.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Radke, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Hoover. Is there any discussion on any of that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And carries. Okay, is there any public comment? Something not. President reports. I have nothing that I can think of right now. We'll go into commission and committee reports. Airport Commission.
We didn't have a meeting and we didn't just. I have, in other words, I'm gonna abstain from A2 because there's no motion that is really needed for it and what it's intended to do. Approve your letter of support for what the airport, like Jeremy's here to explain.
Okay.
So I will, with your permission, turn it over to Jeremy.
Sure.
Well, good evening again, folks. It's been probably more than my obligatory quarterly meeting with many of you, and I see some new faces here. So congrats to those of you who've recently been elected. What I've provided for you is kind of a summary of the calendar year 2024 activity at the airport. You'll see that some of the numbers on page 2 report only through the end of October. That's because at the time I put this together, they had only still audited those numbers through the end of October. So trust me, suffice it to say that really the months of November and December don't add a lot to these annual numbers anyway. So while they might be a little bit higher than what you see here for annual numbers, most likely it's going to be rather insignificant. But just to highlight a handful of the projects that I'll let you folks just kind of glimpse over some of these, and if you want some more explanation of what the 2024 projects that we did, some of the events that we did there, I guess the one, a multi-year, multi-phase project that we are doing over there that's probably going to be the most controversial, probably not on this side of the river, but cutting down trees within or up on 30 different parcels over there, mostly residential parcels on the north end of the airport around that sewage treatment facility. All of those properties are underneath the approach up in that area, and there's many trees that have been found to be obstructions to the approach from that direction. So in order to maintain our level of FAA funding, removing those trees is our obligation. Luckily, we have a lot of state and federal Bureau of Aeronautics and FAA help to help pay for that and to help design it and to help shield us from a lot of the backlash that comes from it, which we haven't had much, thankfully, so far. But this coming winter will be phase 1 of the tree removal, removing trees from obstruction removal so it's abrogation easement 1 and 2. That means every parcel owner over there gets the airspace above their property purchased from them for an amount determined by an appraiser. That's a professional company that has an ability to appraise that. Basically, they're going to get the detrimental loss in property value by giving up that airspace right. So once those easements are purchased, then one time we're going to go through and cut all their obstructive trees. After that, the easement reads the obstructions are their responsibility. So after the FAA goes through and cleans out all the parcels once, from here forth, it's merely enforced by local height limitation zoning ordinance that Mr. or Mrs. property owner, that tree is now 10 feet into the approach per your abrogation easement or the abrogation that was purchased as part of handed to you in the deed of this parcel, you are obligated to not remove that tree. That's where it's gonna get unpopular. I hope that never happens while I'm, or any of you are here, because that'll be a little more problematic. So there's phase one and phase two for the easement acquisitions, 14 parcels the first time, 16 parcels the second time. And then phase one, phase two for the tree removal part, same thing. 14 the first time, 16 the second time. A lot of behind the scenes work and moving parts in those projects, and most of that, thank God, is done by the Bureau of Aeronautics and our engineers. Any questions on any of the other projects? Yeah, go ahead.
So just a question on that. The tree removal, is that gonna be disclosing if somebody tries selling a house, that it's gonna be the property's owner to take care of that tree?
I would sure hope so. I would suspect that would be something that like your deed. One of those
Title
the
company.
title companies or deed, yeah, it should be right in the deed that there's not even tied to that property. I'd be upset to know that it wasn't. Because as a property owner, I certainly wouldn't want to inherit something like that, not knowing it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah, the current property owners are the ones that get the payment for it, and future owners of those properties, if they're not made aware of that, yes, I could imagine them not being very pleased when somebody knocks on their door and says,
Yeah,
that tree's gone.
Yeah.
But
Okay, I'm just curious.
I could look into that, I'll look into that for you. I'd be very surprised if that's not being done.
Of the 30 parcels, how far north does that go? Does that go past? The street that goes to Tri-City?
Pepper?
Pepper, yeah.
Pepper is the east-west and First is the north-south. I believe all of these parcels are south of Pepper, south
Okay.
of Pepper and east of First.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there are potentially some parcels in that subdivision or that little residential subdivision just north of the sewage treatment plant on the west side. There's a bunch of tall oaks there.
Okay.
As of right now, those are, none of the properties or none of the obstructions on those properties was as egregious, I guess you would say, as the ones that were identified on these 30 parcels. So we're going after the most egregious first.
Are you taking down the whole tree or is it just like, are you topping trees?
That's up to the landowner. That's another thing that that the FAA is willing to pay one time, like I said, for this, so. And thankfully, giving the property owner that option. So if they prefer to have a tree topped, there's even going to be an arborist that will give them a recommendation based on their preference afterward. For instance, if you cut the top third of a pine tree off, it's my understanding you're gonna kill that tree. I don't know that's what I heard. Maples or willows, you cut 10 feet off of the top of those, it's gonna fill that in a matter of a couple of years. So there's going to be an arborist specialist that's going to help work with the property owners and say, well, look, here's what's gonna happen. Put 10 trees here's what'll happen with these 10 trees. If you do this, if you do that, we're recommending they take them at the ground. And I think a lot of them could be probably convinced that's the best case, because if in 10 years that maple tree regenerates and grows right back into the approach, now it's their responsibility to trim it. So they're given the option, but with a strong recommendation of trying to take it at the ground level. And as part of it, they're even gonna go back in and grind the stump and refurbish that down to ground level if they take that as their option.
Nice.
So trying to make it as painless as we can and realizing how unpopular it already is, so.
Any other questions based off of this? And then Jeremy, do you want to go into, because we have a motion to send the letter of support. Do you just want to explain the reason behind that letter of support?
Yeah.
that You sent over?
Yes, so the biggest point I want to drive home with it is no way a request for or an obligation for funding, additional funding coming from the village. Aside from what's already budgeted as the annual contribution to the airport. This is exclusively a letter that we need to put together a request package for our request from different state and federal fund or sources of funding to try to get enough money pulled together to get our 53, I think, year-old terminal modernized and upgraded and updated. So, like for instance, our representatives in DC, Johnson, Van Orden and Baldwin, all three of their, we're submitting a request for funding to all three of their offices. All three of their offices have a very similar application for those funding sources, which includes letters of recommendation to any and all sponsors of for, in our case, the airport. So you, Port Edwards, as one of the four municipal sponsors of the Airport Commission, are being requested to supply the letter, provide a letter of support just the same as we are from the other three municipalities, Nakusa, Grand Rapids, and the city. Along with that, we requested it from various businesses in the area that are, you might say, feel an impact from operations at the airport, primarily Sand Valley, but others like Nakusa Bank, the paper industry, the cranberry agriculture industry, they've all been asked to provide a letter similar, and I provided to Betsy and Joe a template that was basically everybody's kind of using a similar language and then adding to it if you see fit, or if you want to rewrite your own letter, you can rewrite your own letter too, but just to make you really could spend a minute on it, merely just filling in the blanks and putting it on your letterhead. So trying to make it as easy or as difficult as you want it. But those applications are due Friday, so I think the timing was actually quite a good timing, in fact, because now if it's approved to provide a letter, hopefully I'll receive it soon so I can get it to our engineering firm that's putting together the rest of the package to request funding. Other funding sources are the FAA, of course, when the airport improvement program money is apportioned in our application that's to be in by the end of July and the money comes in September. There's the State Bureau of Aeronautics funding, and we're even going to go outside of aviation and to DOT funding to tourism, economic development sources within the state and at the federal level. And if it comes right down to it, even maybe hopefully, knocking on the doors of the foundations in the area and seeing but it may be a very concerted effort of funding for this project, and we hope that it gets, when it comes that time, it'll get the traction that it needs locally for that, to demonstrate that support.
All right, any questions?
I do, getting back there, phase one is underway. When do you anticipate phase two?
Phase one of the easement acquisition is complete. Phase two of the easement acquisition project is ongoing now. They're in negotiations with some of the landowners already.
When do you expect that to be completed?
I'd say 12 to 18 months.
Okay,
What holds that part of the project back is if the landowner disputes the appraisal that they're provided for the state's appraiser, they have the opportunity to get their own appraiser, hire their own appraiser to provide a second opinion, basically. So that, it only happened once in the first phase, and that set that phase back 5 months.
Okay.
So 12 to 18 months, I would suspect the state would have offers out and or checks sent to those who've accepted the offers. And if there happens to be a dispute, that might even push that even further.
okay.
Obstruction removal phase one was supposed to happen this past year, but because of a hiccup, I don't think to point fingers or blame anybody. Because of a hiccup, it's not going, trees won't be cut until the summer or the winter now of 25-26 because of the window for endangered species and not spreading diseases and not spreading the Wisconsin rules are there's a very tight window to be able, during when you can cut those trees. So winter of 25 into 26 is when the trees for phase one will be cut. If I had to guess, it probably won't be until the winter of 2 years later when trees will actually start to be cut for the second phase of that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
The information in our packet here, is this available? It's a little hard to read because it came out black and white. Is this something you can email? Is it available on your website?
There's probably a website of the project.
Okay,
Yes, and yes. I have a color PDF of it. Two, I have I have some high quality prints of it.
Okay.
Um,
if there's a website on there, I'll just circle that and go
it's,
through
I
it.
don't see it. It might be down there in the fine print.
It's hard to read.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
can that be something that is sent out?
did,
Appreciate it.
I think you sent it to me.
It's a-
You sent it to us,
So I can-
so
we
we
can
can
send
send it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's just like,
And if you need, for any reason, any high quality prints, if you want to actually hand them to people for any reason, and you want high quality prints, I do have like 30 copies of high quality prints of it as well.
okay,
All right. Anything else? No? All right. Thank you.
you.
Then we will do the motion more or less just to cover our bases. I wasn't sure if we needed to or not, but I figured just to make sure that we do it officially. This is why I put it on there. So is there a motion to approve the village sending a letter of support for the airport in regards to funding a comprehensive terminal renovation?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Radke,
Second.
second by Hess. Any further discussion?
Madam President, as a member appointed by you to the Airport Commission, I feel it necessary that I abstain.
Thank you. Right, hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one carries. All right, we will.
Thank all of you very much, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.
Don't cancel any more meetings.
You got it. You got it, Joe.
What does he provide?
All right, moving on to Police and Fire Commission. Welcome Chairman Stewart from the South.
Thank you very much. The PFC last met on March 4th. Following a closed session, the PFC took the following action. We interviewed and subsequently moved a police applicant to the medical exam phase. After hearing background investigation reports, we moved 2 fire department first responder applicants to the interview phase. After hearing an interview report, we moved 2 fire department fireman applicants to the medical exam phase. And after hearing a background investigation report, we moved a police part-time applicant to the interview phase of the hiring process. We've been busy, but we're doing great. We're on time and everything's going well. Any questions from anyone?
I did have one. So for full-time, we just moved the one person? Did we have 2 people that had applicants?
We had one drop out before Lon, and we only had ultimately one lateral transfer applicant for the full time.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Chairman Stewart? No?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. There's no plan commission meeting, Public Works Committee, Trustee Saylor.
Yeah, we met on February 26th. Just got an update from Ben on the completion of winter activities. Summer help, there are 2 people that have applied. Are they hired?
So we did hire the 2 that came from last year, and unfortunately, last week I got notification that one of the gentlemen took a job at the mill, so I have a application at the high school right now, which runs through next week to see if we can recruit another one.
But you have received another application?
Yes.
Okay. So other than that, it's a pretty quiet month. We have our next meeting scheduled for March 19th at 4 p.m. But in talking to Ben, and the other people on the committee, if we don't have nothing, Ben will let me know. We may cancel that meeting. So yeah, adjourn is only 30 minutes.
Okay, any questions for Trustee Saylor and the Public Works Committee? No? All right, moving to Parks and Recreation, Mr. Hummel.
Hi, everybody. We met on February 17th of this year and had a brief meeting reviewing projects that were in operation. I'm going to ask Mr. Martinson to share what he thinks is relevant in terms of that. We have information on the Legacy Bike Trail. We have an update on that. And activities going forward and new business we might want to mention as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben.
I did apply for the Legacy grant for Ripple Creek, updating playground equipment and walking path. We did hear that we'll be moving on to phase 2 of that, so still still a lot of work to done. We'll see what comes out of that. Legacy grant information, we'll know more here in June or July. We also, the Legacy Bike Trail on Port Road, we received all of the permits from the DOT and the DNR on wetlands and like that, so that project is moving forward. Everybody has signed easements, so there's no holdups. So we'll be moving with that. Hometown hero banners, then it was brought up to look at displaying banners of hometown heroes on Wisconsin River Drive. We have that running through next week, Monday. And as of today, I think Kim has received, two that have actually paid. We have a lot of people that have the forms out there, and we'll do another reminder this weekend. Hopefully we can get some more, than two. We'll be sending them off for approval next week to the printer. And then we get those back to send to the owners of those to make sure everything is, correctly, pictures correct and any kind of spelling is correct. So look to wrap that up next week. Hopefully that just keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. Other than that, that's all I have.
How many applications or forms have gone out for the banners?
I have handed out 2.
We do them online, so I do on the,
Okay.
so, and I've had 3 or 4 calls. I mean, we had 10 people interested when we put the initial one out there.
Okay.
I've had calls. I mean, I have calls on 2 or 3 more, so I think we'll get 5 or 6. Obviously we had 10 that committed, but verbally, but
Okay.
we'll run it through, and if we get another batch that wants to do it later this year, we can always, I think, run it again. So once we get them up, I'm guessing the phone's gonna ring.
Sure.
So appreciate Kim's help on that.
Anything else on part?
Just a comment about that. If we have, some people who are interested but can't afford to do it, that would be good to make note of that, because there might be some opportunities for people to donate money to help support getting that done, so.
Great.
Where are these planning on being displayed? You mentioned River Drive.
Wisconsin River Drive and the light poles.
Front yard.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start here on 1 or 2 and on the intersection
Okay.
of Wisconsin River
Will they
Drive.
be off the flagpole, basically?
Yep. Yep, I think.
I think the city did something realistically similar to that, didn't they?
Yeah, that was through the VFW. They did that. Yep.
And then after a certain set period of time, they come off the poles and go to
Mhm.
the owners.
Yeah, we're hoping to run them 2 years, and then we'll, after the second year, give them back to homeowners. Or the owners, I guess, not the homeowners.
Lastly, our, next meeting, was scheduled for next Monday, and, it's been determined by Ben and myself, we, have nothing on the agenda relevant to call people together for that, for next Monday. So we'll defer till, April when, committee assignments are made.
Okay. Any questions for trustee Hill and Parks? Great. Then we will go to trustee Zerflu and Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The big item of note that I'd like to point out is item number 4. Election time in early April, being April 1st. The third Wednesday will be our organizational meeting, which I do believe that'd be the 16th. And as a result of that, the March 26th public safety meeting will be our last one of the current board session. And if I'm reelected and if I'm reappointed public safety chair again, our first meeting of the new board would be on April 23rd at 4:00 p.m. Chief Lease wrote us some pretty good, interesting end of the year stuff. I'm sure you guys looked at it. If there's any questions you can ask. Also on there is the activity with the Police and Fire Commission. Chairman Stewart has already mentioned that. And the third bullet point on there is their membership. They have fire only members, number 10, EMS only, number 2, and what I like to refer to as hybrids. both fire and EMS are 10 people and 3 cadets. Chief appointed, Brendan decided to, or not decided, but he attended the meeting. And his duties, once he is sworn in as the next chief, will be taken over in the SRO duties and reporting by, Officer Murtis. And then the other bullet point he's got on there, they hope to have the position filled, the current one of, Chief Abbott's spot, sometime by the end of April. And the chairman just verified this, so. Any question?
Any questions for Chairman Dirk Blue out of public safety? No?
Thank you, Madam President.
All right, thank you. All right, the PL committee, Chairman Hess.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We met on February 26, 2025, Planning, Property and Legislative Committee. Some highlights, we did have, really no update from DMI, but we did form an ad hoc committee, to try to look at alternative ways to get movement on that property with or without DMI. So we had one meeting on that. We've got some traction with some federal, the DNR and some other organizations. We're going to be setting up a second meeting to go through some of the possibilities that may be before us to try to get funding, with or without DMI. So more to come on that. We're, starting to get some interest outside of the village, which is helping. So, DMI has not responded, and Ben, if you've got anything to add, please speak up. So I know he's been reaching out to them on a regular basis and they have not either. Number 8, update possible action on 160 Market Avenue. March 17th, the owner is supposed to be meeting with some contractors to take a look at, trying to get that property back into proper condition. We'll see if that happens. So, at least some traction there. Cyber One tip loan. We did receive a $5,000 check from one of the 2 owners. We're waiting on the second $5,000 check to try to get them up to, back caught up with their loan out of the TIF. They are continuing to make their monthly payments. I believe they've paid for February and March. Correct. So we are giving them 60 days to come up with a plan in writing, so how they're gonna catch up. So hopefully we'll have $10,000. They're about $37,000, if memory serves me correct, behind. So at the end of the 60 days, we look to have a plan, and then we will take further action if so deemed. We did discuss a possibility of creating a quiet zone ordinance regarding train horns in the village. After discussion and investigation, it would be a very significant cost. We have 5 crossings that would need to be brought up to standard, and that would be probably close to $10 million, looking at what Wisconsin Rapids came up with for the cost of trying to do that. You have to meet all their standards, and then you apply for a no train horn permit, and then they can either accept it or reject it. And then you review it every 3 years, I think it is. So we did look into that. Right now, there's no action being taken on that. There's only one of the 5, I believe, that would meet standards. You've got to have a meeting, you've got to have crossings on all of them, just to be able to apply for it. If anybody's interested, we can send that information to you, if anybody would like to see that. Discussion of possible action on a facility use agreement. We discussed it. We tabled it until we meet with Attorney Apps to make sure that we've got all the language in there we need, and anything we don't need, we're going to try to maybe shorten it up. So we're going to have some discussions with Attorney Apps at our next meeting. We did look at both of the drafts of that facility use agreement. The discussion was trying to get it shorter, but make sure that the village is covered.
That
Then 12, that will come after the facility use agreement if we get approved, where we put it in the village ordinances. 13, that's the same thing. The last thing was, had discussion about the wording of the village employee retirement plaque resolution that was dated May 11th, 1988. I would like to have a motion to basically change that to read, present a plaque of $50 gift card to any employee upon retirement who has been employed by the village for 10 or more years. The change is really that it's a plaque or a $50 gift card. We kept it at 10 years, the same time frame. So I guess I would be looking for a motion.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Sailor, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Hess. Any discussion on the motion?
I have a question, and I'm gonna try to keep this very short, because we've had long discussions about something that I think we agreed in principle. And do you have, an estimate of how many plaques we might be giving out, per year? With, that have been, that retire, 10 years or more? Just,
Probably 3 or 4. I mean, most of them, we only have, 13 full-time employees, so.
so we're only talking about $150 or $200 kind of thing.
The $50 plaque is what they cost.
Right, but
Some award
times 3 would be $150 a year. So I think we've had enough discussion about it, and with that small a number, it's not a budget buster to approve it in my mind.
Anything else?
And this is only for retirements, correct? This is not a generic recognition program?
Retirement bonus.
This is upon retirement.
Anything else? Hearing none, we have motion by Sailor, second by Hess. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That will carry.
Thank you. Last couple things, new business. We did get a request to look at the possibility of allowing chickens in the village, so we will be taking that up at our next meeting. I'm looking at what the other villages and cities around the area do. So more on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
when you're finished, I would like to speak on 2 items,
absolutely,
the railroad crossings and the chickens.
absolutely. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 19th at 4:30.
Thank you, sir. Lon can verify what I'm about to say. Back in the early 90s, when he and I became chief and he was, put on full time, we had this discussion, people were getting aggravated with, train horns, down, mainly on the tender. And, we looked into it, and outside of being a few more gadgets you need, and the money wasn't nearly as much as it's gonna cost today. Due to the liability factor alone, we just decided not to pursue it anymore. And the second thing, Mr. Chairman, if you want to have a few people at your committee meetings, just allow the chickens to come back in, because up on 4th Street Extended, we had a runaround up there. A lady had chickens and people were complaining that the roosters were doing their job at 4 a.m. So just something to think about.
Thank you for your feedback.
You got it.
We were asked to look into it, so we will.
There you go.
I got a question.
Yes,
The ad hoc committee, do we have minutes? Are minutes being taken at the ad hoc committee?
yes.
Do we have copies of that?
We can send it out, yeah, I sent
They are
it,
posted online.
and they're
The
posted.
videos
our
on.
website.
Yes, we can.
I think going forward, just, I will make sure to put, a bullet underneath the PLP on here, just to review it,
I can do that.
and then we can remember to attach the minutes too. Okay, anything else?
No, thank
Nope.
you.
Okay. Chairman Rick, yeah, thanks for.
Okay, FHR met March 6th at 4:30 PM at Marshall Bueller Center. Mr. Martinson gave us an update on the TIF fund. We didn't get as much money as we did the following year because of reassessments throughout the whole village, but we still have enough in the TIF to do our projects that we had extended for a 5-year project on Second Street. If you have more questions on that, you can ask Mr. Martinson, but we're definitely in with that. He also gave us a final update on the 2024 budget and all the expenses. And we came in with numbers. I don't have them here, but we came pretty fine. They did a great job between Diane and Ben and all the staff of keeping in budget line numbers. And they will also meet the heads of the departments have been working well together to keep the numbers where they should be. I guess that brings me to my motion here. Before I make the motion, Fire Chief Lease was here. He's online tonight if we have questions for him. But to stay within his budget, he asked to add a line to the labor policy. Basically, they have a lot of firemen and first responders coming into the fire department. And if they keep paying them at the rate, there would be a shortfall at the end of the financial year. So the motion that I'd like to make is to add a line to the labor policy establishing pay rate for first responder / EMS at $20 for the first hour of call. Then after the second hour, it would extend to $34 a call, and beyond 1 hour overtime pay after 3 hours of continuous service.
Okay, so you made the motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion by Radke, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Zerflu, discussion. Trustee Saylor?
So I have a couple questions. When this was originally brought up by Chief Lease to the Public Safety Committee, when I was on the committee for a short time, the questions that I had were how they're gonna get paid. I'm fine with the pay as it's written here, but my question is, there's 13 possible EMS. What we noticed when I was on the fire department was some of the calls can last 5 minutes. Is it a $20 per hour, or is it a $20 every time that somebody comes? Is it $20 to have 13 people show up and 2 people go out? And everybody gets the $20, or is it just 2 or 3 or a handful, whoever are on call? And then also we gotta, we're paying $45,000 a year-ish for the ambulance service. And I'm curious how often the ambulance beats the first responders to that call. And if they are beating the first responders to the call, are the first responders being paid that wage? Those are my 3 questions, I guess.
I guess, the only answers I can give, and maybe we could go off table if no objections. When I spoke to Fire Chief Lease about this too, is, because coming back in the possibility of a shortfall because of the numbers of EMS and service and calls, what was explained to me is, well, one, he goes to every single one. If he can make the call or not, he gets down there, and of course, we're paying him a salary. The other thing is, he was going to try to establish a schedule, meaning that there would only be so many people that would take the call. This helps you, meaning if they had 13 EMS first responders, and there'd be only so many would be on schedule for maybe 3 days, and then a different crew would be on schedule for the next 3 days. So they wouldn't be, I understand where you're coming from, Eric, is where they would be tripling up on a call, but maybe he could explain that a little bit better. So I guess with no objections.
Yeah, Chief Lease, could you answer those questions?
Yes, I can. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. So what I'm trying to do is, I guess, put our first responder calls, which typically take, I'll say anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, per call, to bring them down from that $34 range that was approved back in, I want to say 2021, when Administrator Bossert was here. And that increased the fire department's wages alone 30%, which is completely unsustainable when it comes to me adding more members as I have been. If I continue to do the $34 per call with adding, I think I'm at 20 members and got a couple more to go yet. There's no way that I can sustain that within the budget that I have, which would obviously be detrimental to the village. So taking this down to $20 per call for the first hour. After the first hour, from hour one, so you take, hour one going to 1 hour and 1 minute to 2 hours and 59 minutes, bumping that to 34, which we have done for fire calls. And then anything after that 3 hour mark to be overtime will help me save out of this last. Captain Abley just put in the payroll. I think it would have saved me $810 on salary alone by doing this. So it's advantageous for us as the village to do this. And this will help also only schedule certain people. Okay, hey, you're available from this time to that time. I guess if that makes sense, to have, I guess, ensure that we have coverage for the village and our contracted areas, since they are paying us and we are under contract to respond to their areas. I want to ensure that we have coverage for everyone. But to, I guess, help save the village money and make it better and ensure we have services for everybody that we do.
I get that, chief. I'm not arguing the pay. I'm fine with the pay. My question is, how are you gonna schedule this? You said you were gonna schedule this 6 months ago and show us how it was gonna be set up. And maybe you have that already. But if 10 first responders show up in mass, let's say at the fireman's dance, there's a call that comes out, you have people on call. Are we paying all 10 to be there? And then if so, well, that's question one. Question two is, if they're on call, they get their $20 for that call, and let's say the call lasts 15 minutes, and they get another call within that 45 minutes, are they getting paid again another $20? That's question two. And question three is, how many times does the ambulance beat first responders? And if the ambulance beats the first responders, are the first responders still gonna get paid?
All right, so I guess to answer all three questions, number one, at right now, if people show up because us taking on township as our other area of EMS coverage, I want to ensure that we have coverage for both the village, township, Cranmore, and Seneca with no questions asked. So I have everybody come to the station who are available, and I pay them for them responding to the call and to the station. We just had a call over on North Deer Ridge Drive, to where, had I not had people at the station to help me on the call, we would have been, for better or lack of better terms, up the creek without a paddle, because I needed help. So having people at the station to respond to those extra requests of manpower or whatever the case may be needs to happen. And I'm willing to pay that, and that's fine, as long as I stay within my budget. none of this takes me outside of my budget, actually helps me stay within my budget and be more fiscally responsible to the village, which I think all of us can agree we need to do. As far as what was your
Are you
third
still
question,
there?
Eric? Sorry, you guys cut out for a second.
Yeah, the second one was, multiple calls per hour.
Oh, yep, multiple calls per hour. So if we do strike another call within that first hour, they're only getting that $20, right? So it's per hour that they get compensated when they come in to not defer or not deter people from, I guess, volunteering their time for minimal compensation to do what we do.
So Chief, you're saying if they're down there and they have in 1 hour, they have 3 calls, they're only getting $20 if it's only the 1 hour, correct?
Right. If they only make that 1 hour mark, they're not going to go above and beyond.
Okay,
And what was that third question, Eric?
The third one was, if the ambulance is already there, and you guys are called off, are you paying people that are there that show up? Do you get 1022'd?
Sure. Yeah, no, I get, so I've never, since I took over as chief in June of last year, I've never had that happen. The only time that I can think that it would happen is if, a person coming from a further distance from the station to go to a call, that would be the only time that I could think of that would happen. And it hasn't happened since I've been there. We haven't missed a call since I've taken over as chief. So since June of last year, I haven't had an issue with covering any of our calls that we've been called out for. I have a boatload of dedicated members within the village or who live within the village who are willing to go on the calls that we get called for and they show up. I haven't had, like I said, I haven't had that issue at all. I seen that, when I took over as chief, looking over runs from previous years, I've seen that, there's times that we didn't have anybody that showed up for calls, but since I have taken over as chief, I have not had that issue at all.
okay, thanks, Chief. I just have one other thing and
Sure.
if anybody else has any other discussion around here before we go to this motion, your ultimate goal, I guess, is to, after the first responders, I know you have a lot of them that have come on to the department as of recently and you're recently chief. Your ultimate goal is to set up a schedule for them, correct? Is my understanding where, like I had said, that there will only be so many, kind of schedule them, so you're not getting, I guess, you're not getting 20 of them at a time at the station. I mean, I know that you want to have people at the station, but you don't want to have overkill also, correct?
Correct. Yes, that is something that we are striving to do and looking forward to how to best accomplish that without deterring members from responding to calls.
Correct.
Obviously, like I said, myself being salaried, I come to every call that I'm available for because it doesn't, cost the village and it just gives an extra set of hands if need be. I'm hoping by next year, my budget, I will more than likely be putting my assistant chief to a salaried position as well, just to ensure that, they can show up as well to be an extra set of hands, but not count against the village, I guess, and pay. So just trying to be fiscally responsible as much as I possibly can without also deterring people from volunteering to do this job.
Okay. Is there anybody else have any questions or just, or I guess you want you to that?
Trustee Hess, go ahead.
Chief, please, a couple, just so I understand it correctly, it's $20 up to the first hour. Then it's $35 or $34 if they work from 1 hour to 2:59, and that's not an hourly rate, correct? That's just
Correct.
30, okay.
Correct, and then it doesn't go to the hourly rate until after 3 hours, in which if we get over 3 hours for an EMS call, more than likely we are in like a natural disaster type incident to where we're gonna have like federal funding, state funding, those kind of things coming in, if that makes sense to everybody. So it wouldn't necessarily come out of my budget, if that makes sense.
Yes, the second question is, what is the overtime pay rate?
It's $10 an hour.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Hummel.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. Chief Police, just for my own edification, so when does the hour start? Is it portal to portal, or is it when people arrive to the station?
I can answer that. It's when they get paid. We
Sure.
ask that question.
When the page it happens?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And it ends when they return home?
Yes.
Okay, so it's portal to portal. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
That
anything
way
else?
they're
for-
compensated for, I guess, it's not much, but, hopefully to kind of help people to want to volunteer more.
Yeah, makes sense.
Eric, you said you had another?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's for chief or Lon. Could we put that in the labor policy so it's in black and white, so there's no gray area? Whatever is agreed on, so that when we're not sitting here or somebody new or whatever, it's in black and white and it's not, I don't know what the word is, up for judgment or something like
Okay,
that.
you mean the rate, the pay rate? That's
That's
what
what the
we're,
motion is for.
But
Yep, that's
down
what I brought.
by,
oh, broken down?
yeah, how he's gonna pay it, if he has a schedule, if whatever it is, that it's in there. Right now, the way you have it is anybody that shows up on a first responder call is getting $20. You could have 10 people there, you could have first responders going on a structure call, they're gonna be there for 3+ hours potentially on a structure call. There's a lot of different things that were in that used to be in the policy, and I know EMS will eat up a budget very quickly. So as long as it's in black and white, and then we don't have to make judgment calls on anything.
Well, I think that's within my operating guidelines for every year, as long as I stay within my budget. Correct? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to, as long as I don't go over my budget with salary, I think that is well within my rights as the chief or department head, correct?
That could get you in trouble, though. It could, if it's not written as a policy or a line on the labor policy, you could have somebody, good, bad, or indifferent, that takes advantage of it. And I know that
Yeah,
you.
yeah, for sure.
You have to
sure,
approve payroll, but it's not a dig on anybody. It's just
No, I
having
know.
it in policy so that there's no judgment of it. You can use it for a tool if you need it, if somebody's being taken advantage of, for a counseling incident or something, or if public people, any of us have questions, you can point back to the policy.
For sure. Yep. And that's why I wanted to make sure that this was kind of broke down for everybody. Because we never had anything as far as, I guess you say, firefighters versus EMS calls. So I think this will help eliminate that and keep me, I guess, well within my rights of running the department, and as long as I stay within my budget, I guess, if that makes sense.
Okay, I guess, I would still like to go on with the motion tonight. But I guess, so we can start at that rate to help you with the budget and the budget numbers. But I mean, maybe, we could look at this when we had talked, again about putting a schedule together, when we get to that point, maybe within the next 30 or 60 days, we could modify it to say this many EMS workers are gonna be on schedule. Like trustee Cellular says, kind of break it down from a little bit more in depth, but at least we have it in the labor policy right now.
Sure, I can most certainly send you guys a schedule once I have that completed and in place. I can send that to you so you guys can see that as well.
Okay,
Okay, so we have a motion by Radke, second by Zerflu to add a line to the labor policy establishing a pay rate for first responders / EMS at $20 for the first hour of call. $34 if the call extends beyond 1 hour, and overtime pay after 3 hours of continuous service. I'm gonna abstain from this. But all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed.
Nay.
Carries.
okay, other than that, we had some unfinished business with the IT that I just want to let you know that the server is here. Wood County is doing a lot of work, of course, with their new facility. So hopefully within the next month here, we can have you a better update, but it is here. But we just have to have them get some IT people available to make sure we get it all installed and working. And the next meeting, because we will be moving that meeting, the village board meeting to the 16th, our next meeting would be with FHR.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, we have a regular meeting on the
Mhm.
second Wednesday.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
two.
The
Oh, my goodness.
organizational meeting on the 16th,
Right.
usually is just to reorganize committees and everything from the president. And there's no, and to set up the meetings for thereafter, the month after. And it's not a night for motions and all the others.
So the 9th is the regular. I'm trying to-
Thank you, trustee Zerflu. So we'll keep our FHR meeting on April 3rd at 4:30.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
And that may be my last chair of that, depending on what goes on,
okay.
reconstruction.
Number 8, unfinished business from previous meetings. Anybody have anything? New business? Report from village administrator.
First I'll look for a motion to, reword the annual organizational meeting, from Tuesday to Wednesday night, please.
So that was because we moved, the other meetings. We just, though, there's that one place. This probably should have gone through PLP after I thought about it.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Radke,
Second.
second by Hummel. Sorry. Done that first. Do you want to explain it now, Ben?
So, obviously, when we voted to change the meetings from Tuesday night to Wednesday night back in May, we forgot to adjust the annual organizational meeting from Tuesday to Wednesday, so my bad. So now I'm looking to make sure we can get it in the minutes and in the ordinance to read Wednesday instead of Tuesday for the organizational meeting.
Trustee Zerflu?
Madam President, there's no need for a motion to do that because when the board approved that night to move it from Tuesday to Wednesday, that's taken care of. The village coordinator can do that. He's already got permission to do that. My feelings only on that matter.
Okay. Anybody else? So are you looking to table or to rescind? Is that what you want, or? I just want to make sure I understand what you're doing.
Are the other members in agreement? I mean, basically, we're just reapproving what's already been approved. So the motion would have to be withdrawn and the second withdrawn.
I'll withdraw.
I do have one question.
Okay.
Is this a specific ordinance for the annual organizational meeting?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
2.01.
So we.
It's
do
a
have to
different
change
line item
Ordinance.
in the ordinance compared to the actual board meeting.
So personally, I think if we need to change that specific ordinance, doesn't it need to go through the board?
That's what he's doing.
Okay.
It's just deleting what's there currently and adding the new language.
Okay.
Okay. Keeping motion. What I'm hearing. So motion by Radke, sorry, any other discussion or questions?
I agree.
Like I said, I mean, if that can happen and we don't need a motion, I'll rescind the motion.
Well, not to put him on the spot, but Nick knows a whole lot more about Robert's rules and proper procedure than I do, and I just asked him if he agreed.
We don't need a motion to do that?
I do not believe so. It's not explicitly listed as the certain day of the month, is it?
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
Yes.
there's a
Mhm.
If
second.
it is listed explicitly in there, then we do.
And it's already there as the third Tuesday of the month, so
Third
you're
Tuesday.
just changing the day.
Right, so we have to
It
change it
doesn't
to
hurt.
Wednesday.
Is it necessary? Yeah, 5149, probably not. But it doesn't hurt at this point to simply.
We've already got
remove
that.
it. Yeah.
Because we changed the other ordinance for the regular meetings from Tuesday to Wednesday. This ordinance changed the annual organizational meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're all clear as month, sounds like,
Okay,
okay,
keep the motion.
Let's keep it.
all right, so we'll keep it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That carries.
I abstain for the same reason as the other one. This is unnecessary.
Okay,
And then I'm looking for a motion to combine two lots, to Wood County Certified Mapping System on East Shore Trail, two lots into one.
So move.
motion by Zerflu,
Second.
second by Hummel. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That one carries. All right, anything else, Ben?
The last thing would be, I know where some of the committee meetings, we're not meeting, end of this month before, the annual meeting, and I appreciate everybody's help. The last year, over the last couple of years on the committees that we put together. So thanks again to everybody that's helped out. If you're a chairman or a member of the committees to, keep the village moving in the positive direction. So that's all I have.
Report from.
I have nothing.
Okay, trustee comments. Anybody have anything? Go ahead.
One thing that I noticed or was brought to my attention is in the newsletter, it went out as the Fireman's Dance, sponsored by the Port Edwards Firemen. It should be the Fire Department Athletic Association. Cause that's what you guys wanted to change it to, so. That's just one comment, and then just lastly, with the labor policy, the reason I voted no is because the documentation ain't there to support it. If the documentation's there, then you can approve and put those dollar amounts on there. After what had gone through, not to beat a dead horse, but the more things that are on paper that you follow, A, B, and C, the more less likely there is for interpretation. So that's just my 2 cents.
Anything from anybody else? Okay, committee calendar, Public Works, tentatively March 19th at 4 o'clock, likely to cancel
If Ben says we got something, let me know by Monday.
Correct.
by Monday, okay. Parks canceled. Public Safety 3/26 at 4 o'clock,
Yes, ma'am.
ELP 3/19 at 4:30.
Correct.
Correct, FHR 4/3 at 4:30.
Correct.
Okay,
Corporate.
then without objection at 8:04, I will adjourn the meeting. We'll say disband.